How's it going, guys? Anfield here. Welcome back to a new video. So today's video, we're looking at the Badger, which is on the 9.21 test server right now. This is the first iteration of the tank. Remember that this is the test server. Things can change, especially since this is the first iteration of the test. So there may be changes between this video and the release of this tank. However, this is the new tier 10 British tank destroyer replacing the 183, which is being moved to special status the same way the FV215B was moved after the Super Conqueror's introduction. So you can expect to own this tank if you already have that tank, and if you already have the 183. Now, if you want the 183, you're gonna have to research it pretty quickly. So not gonna spend like 30 minutes in tanks.gg. But yeah, this is the current stats of the tank. There's some outstanding features such as the damage per shot being 480. That's quite a bit of alpha for a tank like this. You'd expect 400, but nope, 480. Average penetration, not amazing, but 272 is a lot, all things considered, for standard. Just not outstanding for TDs. I think the premium is about 320. Rate of fire is very high as well, and the reload time being 6.41 fully decked out. The only thing that could increase it is using bonds to improve the equipment and directives, but obviously that's not something that you're going to use most of the time. The gun traverse is pretty wide. The gun depression, though, is important, and that's -10, which is really good. Just think about the Super Conqueror. The aim time is very good as well. The accuracy in general is very good, as you know. So the rest of the tank, the hull armor is outstanding. The tank isn't incredibly quick, but that's not that problematic considering it's a lot faster than you might expect, such as like a T95, which is much slower than this tank. The concealment rating isn't great, but I've found that this tank plays quite well aggressively due to the armor, the gun traverse, and the ability to play over hills. So yeah, it's been quite a fun tank to play. Now, as you'll watch battles in the background here, I'll also talk some more about what I generally feel about the tank and what my experiences were on the test server. Imagine the test server isn't always such a great testing ground for a lot of tanks. Most people seem to have an obsession with playing a lot of artillery, or either that or they play a lot of tank destroyers. Now, that was no exception when I was playing. There was tons and tons of TDs, so you don't really get a great feel for how the tank plays because there's just tons of TDs. Now, this is a separate issue in the game, and it's something that plagues even the live servers, excessive amount of TDs. But that is a separate issue. I just wanted to bring it up purely because for testing purposes, it doesn't exactly give you a great format, especially because this tank's not going to be facing these kind of caliber guns, especially the HE guns. People are playing the FE 4005 for some reason. In fact, it's remarkable to me when new tanks are released and people are more interested in playing other tanks. In fact, you can see that I'm one of 2 Badgers on my team. There's a bunch of other TDs, and then there's a bunch of FE 4005s and only 1 Badger on the other team. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Anyway, but what is important to notice when you're playing or while you're watching this footage is just watch how the armor reacts to being shot at by various different guns and things like that. Then you get a gauge roughly on how the armor will perform in a battle. The only frontal weak point that the tank seems to have, from what I can tell, is the lower front plate. Now, if you can cover that by playing on hills or doing other things like that, you're going to have a really good time. I mean, I already mentioned, of course, that the tank has incredible amounts of gun depression. So that combined with the fact that it has no frontal weak point, it's like if you could imagine playing a T95 that is a little bit faster, has better gun traverse, better gun depression, and no weak points on the top, and instead of having an alpha gun, it has DPM. That's how the Badger sort of plays. It is an incredible tank. Now, another thing that you might need to keep reminding yourself when watching this tank is you kind of expect it to have 400 alpha because the Tortoise had 400 alpha, Super Conqueror, that's the sort of thing. This kind of DPM lends itself to 400 alpha, but it doesn't. It has 480, and that is a significant aspect to the tank. I mean, there's so many things to talk about the tank in terms of its ability, but the 480 alpha is something that should not be overlooked after everything else. I imagine most people will be attracted to the armor, and for good reason. The armor is incredible on this tank. It really is, it just stands up so well. Now, personally, if I was wargaming, I'm looking at this tank, I'm probably thinking maybe it's a little bit too powerful. I do think it borderlines on overpowered as it is right now. But I think saying it's borderline OP is probably being too conservative in this case. I really do think it does need some tuning down. Now, of course, Wargaming, please don't over-nerf the tank. You know, they have a tendency to do that. Hope that's not going to be the case here, but I do think it needs a little bit of tune down. If it's not, and it's released in this current state, whew, what a tank. It's definitely going to be worth it, guys, if you're going to get this tank. As it currently stands, it's very, very, very good. But I don't want to see another Kronwagen situation where the tank is too strong, then they nerf it way too hard and it becomes weaker and redundant, almost unplayable. So yeah, I think it's important that we take things in moderation here with this tank, but it definitely does, in my opinion, need some tuning down, and it'll be fine. I like the fact that I can play it aggressively, but a lot of that lends itself to some of its strongest features, which is its armor, gun depression, and raw DPM. So I do wonder how best to sort of tweak the tank. I mean, yeah, okay, like 2 weak points on the top, sort of like a T95, or 1 weak point on the top like a hatch, would allow it to be dealt with a little bit easier when it's poking over hills, so it doesn't absolutely devastate more aggressive types of tanks. You know, you have situations where this tank could outplay tanks that are built for that sort of role. And I wouldn't really want to see that entirely from a tank destroyer, but I would like to see it be able to continually be played aggressively, because I really don't like the sit in one position the entire game and then complain when your teammates die because you're not been firing anything the whole game. Don't really like that playstyle. Not an SCRV person myself, so I would like to see a lot of the current sort of features of the tank kept as they are. Now, it does lend itself to the question, what else could you tweak about the tank? I don't want to see it be any slower than it is. I like the current speed as it is. I think it's fair. Like I said, weak points are ideal, since its upper front plate, or upper superstructure, I guess, can't really be penned anywhere except by exuberant amounts of heat from like a JP100 maybe. But it doesn't have any true weak points aside, of course, from the lower front plate. So I think addition of that would be reasonable, such as a hatch. But aside from that, I don't want to see it obviously be nerfed too badly, but I think possibly you could look at doing something in regards to lowering the alpha. I honestly think the tank is fine at 400 alpha. I don't think it needs 480 alpha. It seems a bit excessive. I think the tank will function just fine with 400 alpha, considering the reload is very, very good, and of course the gun reliability is very, very good. So don't particularly think it needs 480 alpha. But if you're looking at this tank thinking, is it worth getting? Absolutely. In its current form, it is amazing for a tank destroyer that could be potentially played aggressively, which is what I'm particularly looking at. Not a very campy person, not an SCRV kind of person. So yeah, I don't like to sit in the back, wait till my teammates are dead to get my shots by camping the base. So if you're that kind of person, you're looking to play a tank aggressively, this is, a TD aggressively, this is definitely the TD for you. Hopefully it's just fine-tuned a little bit, but not too aggressively nerfed. I don't want to see that. So, yeah, but I think it's a nice tank. It's a natural progression from the line, which the 183, of course, was not, which is why it's being moved to a special ed status. So yeah, I do appreciate this tank, and I like the aspects of the tank. Like I said, it just needs a little bit tuning down, in my opinion, but if it's released in its current form, it is going to be an amazing vehicle, and I really don't think it should be released in its current form. But even if it's just tuned a little bit, I think that'll certainly be fine. I honestly think it'll still be a very, very good tank. I mean, 10 degrees of gun depression, incredible armor. Whew. It's very exciting. Exciting times. I miss playing TDs aggressively. I used to play the old 268 that way. It was my favorite tank in the game. So this tank reminisces me of a little bit of that. I mean, it doesn't quite deal with alpha, but does deal with DPM. So it's like a more armored version of the Super Conqueror. The Super Conqueror does have a very good turret, although it does have weak points, but very poor hull armor, whereas this tank, you know, doesn't really have much of an issue there, except for the lower front plate, which is quite small and easy to hide. So yeah, it's an exciting tank. 480 alpha is going to be ridiculous if it's released with that. And so if you're looking at grinding any line, this is 100% worth it. Even really for the free tank, I suppose it's definitely worth grinding. But it's been a lot of fun playing this tank, and I'm probably gonna make some videos on this tank if it's released as it is and not nerfed too badly. On the live server, I'm gonna make some videos on it because I really enjoy playing it, which is rare for me to say of any tank destroyer these days, because they're either super campy or gimmicky or both. So this is exciting. This is fun to play. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you found it interesting and informative. This is just basically my opinion on the tank. Let me know if you agree or disagree and whether you've even played the tank on the test server. I'm kind of curious to see what you guys think in regards to how the tank performs, and whether you do think it does need some tuning down, or maybe you think it's fine. Let me know in the comments section, and I'll catch you guys later.